Billionaire yells at Black Maid for answering his call. Seconds later, she seals his biggest deal. What if a simple mistake, a single moment of vulnerability, changed everything? Maya Johnson, 28, moved through the Montgomery mansion like a ghost. Her dark eyes, sharp and observant, took in every detail of the world she inhabited but never truly belonged to. For 5 years, she'd cleaned Charles Montgomery's sprawling New York estate, polishing his marble floors, dusting his rare art, and folding his monogrammed towels with precision. Her hands, calloused from years of labor, worked tirelessly, but her mind was a vault, storing every overheard conversation, every carelessly discarded memo, every whispered deal in the study she cleaned daily. Charles Montgomery, 45, was the kind of man who commanded rooms with a single glance. A tech mogul who'd built an empire on data analytics, his name was synonymous with wealth and power. His mansion, perched on the Upper East Side, was a testament to his success. Crystal chandeliers, imported Italian marble, and a view of the city skyline that screamed dominance. But to Maya, it was just a workplace, one where she was invisible unless someone needed something cleaned, fetched, or fixed. The staff, cooks, gardeners, assistants, mirrored Charles's attitude. They treated Maya with a mix of indifference and condescension, their voices clipped when they spoke to her, as if her presence was an inconvenience. Charles's personal assistant, Vanessa, a sharp-tongued woman with a penchant for designer heels, was the worst. "Maya, you missed a spot," she'd say, pointing to an imaginary smudge on a mirror, her lips curling into a smirk. Maya would nod, her face a mask of calm, and clean it anyway. She'd learned long ago that arguing was pointless. Her job was to stay quiet, stay efficient, and stay out of the way. But Maya wasn't just a maid. Beneath her composed exterior burned a fierce intellect. Growing up in Brooklyn, she'd been the first in her family to graduate high school, her teachers praising her knack for problem-solving and her insatiable curiosity. She'd dreamed of college, of studying business or economics, but life had other plans. A sick mother, mounting bills, and a series of dead-end jobs had led her here, to Charles's mansion, where her dreams gathered dust alongside the furniture she polished. Still, Maya listened. She absorbed. While scrubbing wine stains from Persian rugs, she overheard Charles negotiating multi-million-dollar deals. While organizing his desk, she glimpsed emails about mergers and acquisitions. She didn't just clean his study, she studied it. The names of clients, the stakes of deals, the weak points in Charles's strategies, they all found a home in her memory, tucked away like treasures she might never use. The morning of the incident started like any other. Maya arrived at the mansion at 6 a.m., her sneakers silent on the polished floors. She moved through her routine, brewing Charles's coffee, black, no sugar, wiping down the kitchen counters, and tidying the study before he descended from his penthouse suite. The air was thick with tension. Charles had been on edge for weeks. Vanguard Enterprises, his largest client, was wavering. A $500 million contract hung in the balance, and rumors swirled that they were considering a competitor. Charles's temper had grown shorter, his demands sharper. Even Vanessa, usually unflappable, seemed rattled. Maya was in the study, dusting the bookshelves, when the phone rang. The caller ID flashed Vanguard Enterprises. Her stomach twisted. Charles was in the gym, his phone left on the desk as he barked orders to someone through his earpiece. The phone rang again, then again. Maya hesitated. She knew the rules, never touch Charles's private line. But this wasn't just any call. Vanguard was the key to his empire's survival. If she let it go to voicemail, and Charles missed a critical update, she'd be blamed. If she answered, she risked his wrath. The fourth ring felt like a countdown. Maya's hand shot out, grabbing the receiver. "Montgomery Residence," she said, her voice steady but soft. "Who is this?" The voice on the other end was sharp, impatient. It was Richard Hale, Vanguard's CEO. "This is Maya, Mr. Montgomery's staff. He's momentarily unavailable. May I take a message?" A pause, then a scoff. "Tell Charles to call me back immediately. This is urgent." The line went dead. Maya scribbled the message, her heart racing. She'd barely set the pen down when Charles stormed into the study, his face flushed from his workout. His eyes landed on the phone, then on her. "Who the hell told you to answer my phone?" His voice was low, dangerous. Maya straightened, her hands clasped in front of her. "It was Vanguard Enterprises, sir. I thought. You thought." Charles cut her off, stepping closer. "You're not paid to think, Maya. You're paid to clean. To follow orders. Do you have any idea how unprofessional that was? You could have cost me everything." His words hit like a slap, each one designed to wound. Maya's cheeks burned, but she kept her gaze steady, her voice calm. "I'm sorry, sir. It won't happen again. It better not." Charles snatched the note from her hand, his eyes skimming it before he crumpled it and tossed it into the trash. "Get out of my sight." Maya nodded, retreating to the hallway, her heart pounding. She leaned against the wall, closing her eyes. 5 years of this. 5 years of being dismissed, demeaned, invisible. She'd swallowed her pride so many times it felt like a reflex. But something in her chest tightened, a spark of defiance flickering to life. The rest of the day was a blur of activity. Charles was in a frenzy, pacing the study, barking into his phone. Maya kept her distance, moving through her tasks with mechanical precision. But she couldn't help overhearing snippets of his conversations as she worked nearby, cleaning the dining room, restocking the bar, straightening the cushions in the lounge. "We're losing them, Vanessa," Charles snapped, his voice carrying through the open door. "Hale's got 1 foot out the door. If we don't close this deal by tonight, we're done." Maya's ears pricked. She knew Vanguard's concerns from overheard calls and emails she'd glimpsed while dusting. They weren't just about numbers, they were about trust. Vanguard's board felt Charles was too focused on short-term profits, neglecting the long-term stability they craved. His pitches, all flash and bravado, weren't addressing their deeper fears. As she polished a silver candelabra, Maya's mind raced. She'd spent years listening, piecing together the puzzle of Charles's business. She knew the names of Vanguard's board members, their priorities, their pain points. She'd heard Charles dismiss their concerns as petty, but Maya saw the bigger picture. Vanguard didn't just want a deal, they wanted a partner who understood their vision. By late afternoon, the mansion was buzzing with nervous energy. Charles's team of advisors arrived, their voices loud and urgent as they huddled in the study. Maya slipped in to refresh the coffee, her presence barely acknowledged. She caught fragments of their discussion. "Hale's pulling out. We need a new angle, something to show we're committed long-term." Charles was unraveling. His tie was loosened, his hair disheveled. "I've tried everything," he shouted, slamming his fist on the desk. "What do they want from me?" Maya set the coffee pot down, her movements silent. She shouldn't speak. She couldn't speak. But the words were there, burning in her throat. She'd heard enough, seen enough, to know exactly what Vanguard needed. The phone rang again. Charles grabbed it, his voice strained. "Hale, talk to me. What's it going to take?" Maya lingered by the door, her cloth paused on a bookshelf. She could hear Hale's voice through the speaker, cold and final. "Charles, you're not listening. We need a partner, not a salesman. Your numbers are impressive, but they don't address our core concerns. We're done." The room went silent. Charles's advisors exchanged uneasy glances. Vanessa scribbled furiously on her tablet, her face pale. Charles gripped the phone, his knuckles white. "Hale, give me one more chance. I'll." Maya's heart pounded. She couldn't stay silent. Not now. Not when she knew she could help. She stepped forward, her voice quiet but clear. "Mr. Montgomery, may I say something?" Every head in the room turned. Charles's eyes narrowed, his jaw tight. "What could you possibly have to say?" Maya swallowed, her pulse racing. "I've heard your calls with Vanguard. They're worried about long-term stability. They don't trust that you're invested in their future. You've been pitching profits, but they want a partner who understands their vision for sustainable growth." The room was deathly quiet. Charles stared at her, his expression unreadable. Vanessa snorted, folding her arms. "And you know this how, exactly?" "I listen," Maya said simply. "While I'm cleaning, I hear things. I've heard you talk about Vanguard's board, Mr. Hale, Ms. Carter, Mr. Patel. They're not just looking for a deal. They want a commitment to their values: innovation, community impact, environmental responsibility. If you pivot your pitch to show you're aligned with those, you could win them back." Charles blinked, his mouth slightly open. For the first time, he looked at Maya, really looked at her. Not as a maid, but as a person. "Go on," he said, his voice softer. Maya took a breath. "Propose a joint initiative. A research fund for sustainable tech, co-branded with Vanguard. Offer to match their investment, dollar for dollar, and tie it to their community outreach programs. It shows you're not just in it for profit, you're in it for their future." The advisors murmured, scribbling notes. Charles leaned back, his eyes locked on Maya. "And you think this will work?" "I know it's what they're asking for," she said. "They've said it in every call. You just haven't heard them." Charles hesitated, then picked up the phone. "Hale, I've got something new. Give me 5 minutes." He relayed Maya's idea, his voice steady but tinged with something new: respect. As he spoke, Maya stepped back, her hands clasped, her heart still racing. She'd done it. She'd spoken. And for the first time in 5 years, she felt seen. The call lasted 20 minutes. Charles's voice grew more animated, his pitch infused with a clarity Maya had never heard from him. When he hung up, the room erupted in cheers. "They're in!" Charles shouted, pumping his fist. "Hale's scheduling a follow-up tomorrow to finalize the terms." The advisors clapped, Vanessa included, though her smile was tight. Charles turned to Maya, his expression a mix of shock and gratitude. "How did you know all that?" Maya met his gaze, her voice steady. "I've been here 5 years, Mr. Montgomery. I see everything. I hear everything. I'm not just cleaning your house, I'm paying attention." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Charles nodded, a slow, thoughtful gesture. "You're wasted here, Maya. You should be running a company, not dusting one." The next morning, Charles called Maya into his study. She stood before his desk, her hands clasped, expecting another task. Instead, he slid a folder across the table. "Open it," he said. Inside was a proposal, a consultancy role at Montgomery Analytics, with a 6-figure salary and a team to lead. "I've been an idiot," Charles said, his voice gruff. "You've got more insight than half my board. I want you on my team, not as a maid, but as a strategist. And if you want to start your own firm one day, I'll back you." Maya stared at the folder, her throat tight. 4 years, she'd been invisible, her dreams buried under the weight of survival. Now, they were within reach. "Thank you, Mr. Montgomery," she said, her voice steady but thick with emotion. "I won't let you down." "You already haven't," he replied. 6 months later, Maya stood in her own office, a sleek space in Midtown Manhattan. Her consultancy firm, Johnson Strategies, was small but growing, with clients already praising her innovative approaches. Charles had kept his promise, investing in her startup and referring her to his network. But more than that, he'd changed. He listened more, delegated better, and treated his staff with a respect Maya had never seen from him before. Maya, too, had transformed. She carried herself with a quiet confidence, her voice no longer silenced by invisibility. She'd spent years absorbing the world around her, and now she was shaping it. As she looked out over the city skyline, her reflection faint in the glass, she smiled. The maid was gone. The strategist had arrived. And somewhere, in a mansion on the Upper East Side, Charles Montgomery sat at his desk, a rare smile on his face. He'd learned a lesson he'd never forget: brilliance could come from anywhere, even the woman he'd once overlooked.